You know, I never thought I'd run into her again, at least not like that. I spent years trying to forget the sound of her voice, the curve of her handwriting on birthday cards, the way she used to hum when she brushed her teeth. And then one random Thursday, I'm sitting in seat 22B on a flight to Dallas, sipping lukewarm coffee and minding my own business, when I look up, and there she is. Jessica, my ex-wife. She didn't see me at first. She was laughing, of course she was. Her laugh had always come easy in public. She was wearing this beige cashmere shawl that probably cost more than the entire balance in my checking account. Her nails were perfect. Her makeup subtle but flawless, like she just stepped out of a magazine spread titled Effortless Wealth. And right beside her, in the first-class section of the plane, was some guy in a tailored suit who looked like he owned oil fields or a tech empire, maybe both. He had that shiny watch, always on phone energy. They were drinking champagne before takeoff. I felt my stomach sink. Not because I missed her. I'd put that ghost to bed a long time ago, but because I remembered what it felt like to be standing next to her and still feel like I didn't exist. Back then, I didn't have much. Still don't, really. I dropped out of college when my dad got sick, picked up a job fixing HVAC units to help my mom keep the lights on. Jessica knew that when we started dating, I was always the one with calloused hands and secondhand jeans. She said it didn't matter. Ambition's sexier than money, she used to say. But ambition didn't pay for fancy brunches or spontaneous weekend getaways. It didn't impress her friends, either. Especially not the ones who wore stilettos to brunch and talked about equity portfolios like they were sharing recipes. It chipped away at us, slowly, then all at once. Until one day, I came home to a half-packed suitcase and a folded note on the kitchen counter. I can't keep waiting for your potential to show up. That was the last thing she ever said to me. So now, years later, I'm sitting there on this plane, watching her sip Dom Perignon in seat 2A like she's allergic to turbulence, and suddenly I'm 27 again, standing in the rain outside our apartment, holding a bouquet of flowers and trying not to cry. I thought maybe she wouldn't notice me. I had my hoodie up, earbuds in, trying to disappear into a podcast. But when the seatbelt sign came off, and people started lining up for the bathroom, I felt her presence before I saw her. She was walking down the aisle. I caught her eye by accident. And that's when it happened. She froze for a second, blinked, then smiled like I was someone she vaguely remembered from college. Wow, she said. Is that Kyle? I wanted to say no, to just pretend I was someone else entirely. But I couldn't lie, not with her looking at me like that. Yeah, I said, standing up halfway. Hey. She tilted her head. Kyle Jackson, the Dropout guy, right? I felt the word slap me. There was a pause, one of those long, awkward ones that feel like you're stuck in a bad dream. The people in line behind her weren't even paying attention, but I felt like everyone was watching. I guess so, I said. Tried to laugh it off. Still living the dropout life. She chuckled. Well, looks like you found the back of the plane just fine. There was this sparkle in her eye. Not the kind you fall in love with. The kind that twists the knife just a little, like she was performing for someone, even if that someone was just her own ego. Enjoy your flight, she said, then walked past me toward the lavatory. I sat down, heart pounding, hands clenched into fists. I didn't know if I was angry or just humiliated. Maybe both. The rest of the flight was a blur. I couldn't focus on the podcast. I kept replaying the look on her face, the way she said dropout guy, like it was my entire identity. Like the years I spent helping my mom, or the businesses I tried to start, or the nights I worked until 2 a.m. Fixing people's broken furnaces didn't count for anything. When we were married, Jessica used to say I had grit. She said it like it was a virtue. But the second she realized grit didn't come with a guarantee of luxury, she checked out. Started going to networking mixers that always ended with her phone on silent and her eyes somewhere else when I talked. I remember the first night I knew it was over. She came home smelling like someone else's cologne. I didn't say anything, just stood in the kitchen, staring at the sink full of dirty dishes, wondering how long I'd been trying to build a life with someone who'd already packed hers up emotionally and left. The divorce wasn't messy. It was silent. She left me the apartment. I left her the car. She changed her number. I changed my habits. It took me a year to stop flinching when my phone rang after 10 p.m. Funny thing is, after she left, my life didn't fall apart. It just got quiet. I picked up more side work. Started my own small HVAC company with an old van and a stack of business cards I printed at Staples. Nothing flashy, but it was mine. Some months I barely made rent. Other months I surprised myself. But through all of it, I stayed grounded. Not successful in the social media sense, but real, solid, present, which is more than I can say for how I used to feel with Jessica. And yet here I was, back on this damn plane, letting her voice rattle around in my head like I was still that 27-year-old trying to prove I was worth sticking around for. When we landed, she and her rich husband, who I later heard her call Bradley, of course, were whisked away by a driver. I watched from my Lyft ride as their black SUV disappeared into traffic. She never looked back. I stared out the window the whole way to my hotel, jaw tight, heart heavier than it had any right to be. I wasn't sad. I wasn't even angry. I was just tired of carrying around the weight of someone else's judgment like it still had power over me. That night, I lay on the stiff mattress in my budget hotel room and stared at the ceiling. Her voice kept echoing. The dropout guy. Maybe that's what she saw. But it's not who I am. And the thing she'll never understand, the thing she'll never have to understand, is that dropping out doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean you failed. Sometimes it means life hit you harder than you expected, and you made a choice. A real one. One that involved sacrifice. I chose my father's hospital room over lecture halls. I chose dignity over debt. And yeah, maybe I took longer to build something. But what I built, it's mine. And no matter how many first-class tickets she books, she'll never know what that kind of pride feels like. Still, part of me wanted closure. Or maybe just a second to say, I'm doing all right, Jess. But the truth is, I didn't need to say anything. She already said enough when she called me the dropout guy. Because now I know who she is. And I know who I am. A week after that flight, I was back in Nashville, fixing a busted AC unit in a 2-bedroom duplex out in Antioch. The kind of job that leaves your back sore and your shirt clinging to your skin in all the wrong places. But as I knelt there with a wrench in one hand and sweat dripping down the bridge of my nose, I caught myself thinking about her again, Jessica. Not in the aching, heartbroken way I used to, but in that puzzled, distant sort of way you think about someone from a past life. Like wondering what happened to a neighbor who moved out years ago. You remember their name, maybe their favorite coffee order, but not much else. Except Jessica had branded that plane ride into my mind. The way she looked at me, like I was a footnote in her story. It stirred something in me. Not sadness. Not anger. Clarity. The day after the flight, I'd called my accountant. Not for therapy. For facts. We went over the books. Turns out, my little HVAC business had finally turned a corner. I'd been too in the grind to notice. Steady clients. A couple small contracts with property managers. Enough margin to maybe hire a part-timer next spring. For the first time in years, I wasn't scrambling. After we hung up, I sat in my truck and laughed hard. Not because I'd made it big, but because I realized something I hadn't dared believe before. I didn't need to catch up to Jessica's world. I'd outgrown it. Her world was polished Instagram stories and cocktail parties where everyone pretends they're not insecure. Mine was the smell of insulation and old carpet and hard-working folks who paid in cash and offered lemonade in jelly jars. And the thing is, I liked mine better. 2 nights after that call, I found myself sitting on the porch of my buddy Tony's place. Beer in hand. Crickets buzzing. He asked me if I'd ever thought about reaching out to her. What would I even say? I asked. She saw me. Made her joke. She walked on. That's the whole story. Tony leaned back and took a sip. Yeah. But maybe it's not about what you'd say. Maybe it's about what you didn't. He had a point. That voice, the one that had whispered to me on the flight, in the hotel, even under the fan belt of a busted unit. It was still there. The next morning, I woke up early and wrote a letter. Not to send, just to write. Jessica, you called me the dropout guy, like that was the punchline. Maybe it is, in your story. But in mine, dropping out was the first adult decision I ever made. I didn't drop out because I was lazy. I dropped out because my dad was dying and someone had to step up. And I'd do it again. You married into money. Good for you. I hope it's made life easier. But I learned how to build something from nothing. I built a business with my hands, not with stock tips or real estate deals. I built a life that fits me, not one designed to impress strangers at dinner parties. You judged me for not keeping up with your world. But maybe you were never built for mine. And maybe that's okay. I'm not mad at you, Jess. Not anymore. I just hope, when you look at that man in seat 22B next time, you see more than a dropout. You see someone who got back up. Kyle. I folded the letter and slid it into the back of my glove box. It wasn't for her. It was for me. A release. A reckoning. A few months passed. Business kept rolling. I hired a part-time kid named Malik, fresh out of trade school, smart as hell, eager to learn. I started sleeping better, eating better, even joined a rec league softball team. Got a new couch that didn't sag in the middle. Little wins. One night, I was grabbing a sandwich at this quiet little bar downtown when a woman sat at the stool next to me. I didn't notice her at first. I was busy texting a client about a unit I'd be replacing Monday morning. She cleared her throat softly. Still drinking Dr. Pepper with lime? I turned. It was her. Jessica. No shawl. No husband. No champagne. Just jeans and a hoodie and tired eyes. Didn't expect to see you here, I said. She smiled, kind of awkward. Me either. I was at a fundraiser nearby. Needed food that didn't come on toothpicks. I laughed, despite myself. You look different. So do you, she said. We sat in silence for a second. She fiddled with her ring. Only it wasn't there anymore. I heard about your company, she said. Friend of mine lives in East Nashville. Said some guy fixed her AC faster than anyone else. I recognized the name. I nodded. Yeah, that's me. Still the dropout guy, I guess. She winced. Kyle. I was out of line on that plane. I shrugged. It's fine. No, she said, firmer this time. It's not. I was showing off. Trying to prove something. I don't know what. That I was better? That I won? Her voice cracked a little. I didn't win. Not really. I looked at her for a long moment. She wasn't performing now. No stage lights, no rich guy at her side. Just Jessica. A little older. A little lonelier. You seemed happy, I said. I was playing the part, she admitted. Turns out, marrying rich doesn't fill the empty parts of you. Just makes them quieter. We talked for an hour. About nothing. About everything. She told me she'd left Bradley 6 weeks ago. Said she felt invisible next to him. Said she missed feeling grounded. I used to think you were stuck, she whispered. But now I think maybe you were just steady. I didn't say much. I didn't have to. When we stood to leave, she looked at me and asked, would you want to maybe grab coffee sometime? Just to catch up? I thought about it. Thought about everything. And then I smiled. I wish you well, Jess. Really I do. But I'm good. She blinked. Nodded slowly. Yeah, I can tell. I left her standing there at the bar. Walked out into the night. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the man who got left behind. I felt like the man who found his way forward. She had her version of me. But I finally had mine. And that version? He wasn't the dropout guy. He was the man who never stayed down.